everybody, welcome back to my tiny garage. I have a little bit of an interesting video for us today. I'm going to do a little welding and fabrication project on something that I haven't seen on YouTube yet. Behind me on my workbench, I have my Harbor Freight Hercules Jackhammer. This is the biggest one they sell. I think it's the 80-pound version. Don't quote me on that. But it's the biggest one they sell. I've used it on quite a few projects between busting rocks up and whatever else I need done. Even used these things to hammer and rebar before. But what I don't have is a tamper or like a vibra plate. And they're pretty expensive, and I just haven't been able to find one yet in my price range with a blown up engine that I can easily fix. So to get through a temporary project for tamping, I've had this idea to try to put a steel foot on one of my older bits that's kind of wore out and no good anyway. I've seen them online that you can buy like a 4x4 square or like a 6x6 square maybe, 1 1/8" hex bit that you can put in here that's supposed to make like a little tamp foot for these jackhammers. But the only thing I didn't like about that is that only allows you to tamp straight down, and in the process of, say, like trying to make like a retaining wall, you would want to tamp in a smaller straight line. Now those vibra plates that you walk behind, of course, they are self-propelling, or like the jumping jacks and all that, they kind of move themselves forward a little bit. You don't have to do much work on it. Well, if I use a straight foot on this, then I have to keep picking the jackhammer up and setting it down and tamping and all that. So what I want to know is, can I take some pins, bushings, and other stuff that I have come up with from the family farm store not far from here, and weld myself a hinging tamp foot? So, well, what would that allow me to do? Well, that would allow me to be able to turn the jackhammer, instead of standing here this way and having to pick it up and move it. Well, what happens if it has a little bit of a hinge to it and I can lean the jackhammer? And what that would hopefully essentially allow me to do is to be able to tamp in a straight line. So if the bit is just a little bit off center, it would hopefully move that foot in a straight line. Will it work? I don't know, but we are here to find out today. So I have some stuff on the bench that I think will work. This is completely trial and error. I have no idea how this will even go. But either way, I wanted to bring you guys along for the ride. So let's get started. So since I want the foot to go to the side, and hopefully that I don't have to pick it up and so on, this bit only goes in one direction. You'll see that it's slotted here on the bit, and that is to keep it locked in. So it can only go one direction. So that means I have to do this. I pretty much only get one chance at it. So the handles are here on each side, going this direction. So I want the plate, the long side of the plate, to be going that same direction. So I'm going to mark on the side of this bit, on each side of the hex, just a little paint mark, so that I can remember where the handles are on the bit. That way, hopefully I can get this all put on there the correct way the first time. So what I got to work with here is I have a 1/2-inch plate, 8 inches by 12, I think. Yep, 8 by 12. I'm not going to make the foot that big. I'm not really thinking that I want it that big. I was kind of thinking, I don't know, I might keep the 8. I was thinking more like 10 maybe. I have big thoughts. I thought about maybe trying to roll the edge up on the front and the back about like 1/2 inch, or, well, I guess maybe more like a 1-inch roll, to allow the foot to move forward and back. Because if I keep it straight and keep just a straight edge like that, it'll want to dig into the ground. So I'm going to want to roll the edge up a little bit. So I was thinking originally to do more of a 6-inch foot. Yeah, that's probably what I'll do. So I'll probably do a 6-inch foot. I'm not going to roll the sides. I don't have a press brake to do that. And I think it's going to be probably too much to try to do with heat and a sledgehammer. So I'm probably going to cut this plate down to be 6 inches wide, which I feel is probably pretty good. I don't want to go overkill, because in order to get compaction, the best compaction is the most weight on the littlest area. So I don't want to go too big, because then it won't do any compaction, so it won't do you any good. But if I go too small, then we'll just be digging into the ground all the time, and or we will just take forever to do a project. So I want to try to pick somewhere in the middle. So I'm kind of thinking to cut the plate down to be 6 inches wide, and then probably 10 inches long, and then we'll try to roll the edge, so it'll only end up actually being a compaction plate of 6x8, instead of the full 8x12. So I guess I'll go ahead and get the plate marked off to do that. Now, what my hope here is to try to do is I have a tractor. I went to the tractor section of the store and picked up some heavy stuff here that I hope won't bend and will hold up to what I'm trying to do. So if I pull this bit out here, what I essentially am going to go for is I'm going to cut the tip off of this bit and just get me a square end. Or, well, I guess I want it partially rounded, but not too much. I'm going to then take this category 2 replaceable ball link for the end of your 3-point hitch and weld that to the bottom of the shank bit itself. What that's going to get me is basically a very large bushing on the end. I then hope to be able to take the category 2 hitch pin, which goes through there with a little bit of slop, and use that as my pivot point. Okay? I can use these bushings then that I got. These are category 2 to category 3 up step bushings, which slides on to category 2 quite nicely. I can cut these down if I need, but I'm going to try to use these to take up the slack on either side of my pin. So I'm going to probably take some of the steel then that I cut off this plate and weld that on the end of my pin. So what that will do is it will give a portion to be able to weld the foot to. It will allow it to swivel 180, and then the bracket will then weld to the base itself. That's kind of what I'm going for. That's what I'm going to try. I don't know if I'm going to need to weld any kind of top bracing to this. I can easily do like an X pattern to spread out some of that weight, the weight of the jackhammer and the pounding action of the jackhammer. I'm going to assume that the side brackets that I weld on will be enough to take the force of it without bending the bottom plate. I'm pretty sure this jackhammer doesn't weigh, it weighs less than 100 pounds. Yes, it has some downward, pushing action, but I don't think it's really going to bend the bottom plate. If I was worried about doing the bottom plate, then I, of course, would weld out pieces on the top plate to spread out that impact. But I don't know if we're going to have to do that. We might have to just try it out and see. That might be a second rendition to it later on. I don't know. Like I said, this is kind of all trial and error. So I guess the first thing to do, I'm going to get this plate marked out to what size I want it. And then we'll cut the plate out and then kind of start fabricating all the other pieces that we need. And then we'll kind of weld it all together and see what we get. Okay, so we're going to want six inches this direction, 6 inches out, 6 inches out, then going this way, I'm going to go to 10 inches. And 10 inches. Perfect. Does it look like it's going to work with our pin? Yeah, that'll work out good. I'm going to end up trimming some of this pin a little bit smaller probably, so that'll give us enough room on each side to weld that plate on. Yeah, that should work out alright. Okay, let's get something set up to cut with. Now, my torch skills are not what you might call fantastic, so don't judge me too hard on my torching here, but I think that's probably our best option. don't know if this is actually going to work or not to bend it, but I'm gonna try it. See if we can't get anything to happen. I'm just gonna kind of put a mark here at 1 inch. Side there. I'm not too worried about it being too precise or anything. Just some kind of a flare would be beneficial, I believe. Alright, so I'm just lining up those 2 marks I made with the table edge. You know, on second thought, I have a better idea. I have a better idea instead of doing this. I could sit here and wail and whack at this thing, but I think what would be better is if I took my just take my grinder and just cut a little groove in there, which would allow it to bend a lot easier, and then I can just weld it shut. And that would be probably a whole lot better on the equipment that I have than just going to town and absolutely killing and wasting a lot of gas. So yeah, why don't I just do that? I'll just cut a groove in there. I'll give us a little bit of a place to start from, and then over here I'll just go ahead and do the same thing on this side. Go 1 inch, 1 inch, do a straight line. That's probably would have been better off to start there, huh? Alright, so we got a little bit more of a bend on the other side. Let me grind just a little bit more out of the side we made hot, and then we'll try it again. Alright, I took out a fair amount there now. See if we can't get any more, a little bit more of a bend yet. There. That looks pretty good. So we got our pin, we got our main bushing, and then we have our filler bushing. So what kind of a measurement? We have 6 inches here. So I don't want this any longer than 6. This is 5. If I use 1/2 inch on the ends to make up my brackets, so that's going to eat up an inch of space right there. So that means we have 5 inches to work with. So what happens if I cut this pin off? See, that's got 2 rings on this side. What happens if I cut the pin off on the inside of this ring and right behind this hole. What measurement are we looking at? We're looking at 3.5 inches right there. 3.5. So at 3.5, it's going to set it in off the edge. That's probably all right. So it'd be from right there to over there. What's our spacer width here? Our main spacer is almost 1.5 inches. So we wouldn't need much space, a little bushing then on either side of that. Let's go with that, I guess. That'll put the weight distribution more in the center instead of out so far on the pin. I guess in that fact we could go shorter yet. Put it a little bit closer together. So center here is 3 inches. So if I throw this right about 3 inches, yeah, I mean, I guess we could go a bunch shorter than that. Really, there's nothing says that we have to go the whole way out to the edge. Yeah. Why don't we just do that? Why don't we just take this pin, let's just make it 3 inches. So if this is about 1.5 inches, at 3 inches, it would take up half of the pin, and then just leave a little bit on the sides. Unless we just cut the pin long enough to go through the main bushing and not even use. Nah, I'm gonna try to spread the weight out just a little bit further, just a little bit on either side. So let's go with 3 inches on the pin. We're gonna go 3 inches on the pin, and then kind of go from there. Our little side brackets. Pin's going to be welded on like that. Be welded at the bottom of the plate. Now, we have to make sure that we have enough room for our swivel bushing. So we put our swivel bushing on there. I want to make sure there's enough room underneath the plate that, of course, that it can swivel. So we're going to come up just a little bit. Say right about there. We're going to leave like a 1/4 inch. A 1/4 inch of space underneath there. Okay. So what is that height right there? So that height right there is about 1.75 inches. About 1.75 inches would be the top of the pin. So let's go with 2 inches. Let's go with 2 inches, and that will allow us just enough metal then to weld the top around. We don't really need anything up sticking past that, so let's just go to 2 inches, and that should give us the space that we need. So it'll end up being a little something like that. Okay, it's looking good. It's looking good. So after some thought here, I'm thinking about doing away with the bushing idea. I'm wondering if it just wouldn't work better, even though it might be just slightly over-engineered, I don't know. So I'm wondering if it would just be better to just drill straight through these side plates and put the cross axle, or whatever you want to say, right through the side plates. That way we're not trying to side weld. And the other thing I was running into too is if you use a bushing, the bushing works, right, in theory, but I can't get in there to weld it then. And I never gave that a thought, that I wouldn't be able to get in and weld to the side. So we have two things going against us. I can't get in to weld it with the bushing. And even if I could, that would be technically kind of the wrong way to do it, because we have down force pushing down and we're side welding it to the side pad. So durability might be a little questionable, you might say. Now I could just do it this way and just side weld it right to the axle right to the side as it is with no bushing, but I'm kind of thinking it might be pretty decent. It might be a pretty good idea to try to just drill an actual hole through the side. That way we have the proper down pressure in the right spot. The down pressure is pushing down then on the side brackets, instead of out and on the weld. So let's try that. Let's try drilling those holes through. I think the biggest drill bit I have is 7/8. This axle size is 1 inch. So I'll probably end up having to turn on the sander then down like the very first little bit of the axle, down about 1/8 of an inch to get it to slide through. But unfortunately I don't have a lathe. That would be nice to use that for, but someday. Right now we're using what we got. So let's drill them out here and see about turning that down and see how that turns out for us. This whole apparatus here, we wanted, this is pushing down, we want that tight. So about what kind of space do we need here till center? Say about 1 inch. We have 2 inches to work with. Let's go with 1.25 inches. 1.25 inches on center should give us what we need. So this is our bottom. This is the edge that we ground. So stick this down. We come up 1.25 inches. Come this way 1 inch. That's our center right there. Double check. 1.25 inches right on. 1 inch right on. Okay. Same thing with this one. Come up 1.25 inches. Come across 1 inch. Right there. Double check. 1 inch on the dot. 1.25 inches. Okay. Now, take a center punch and a hammer, and right on that Right in the center of that spot, we will make a starting mark. Go. Perfect. Now we're going to place to start our drill bit. Alright, let's get over here and get started. Well, sadly, our drill press let us down. Didn't quite have enough oomph to turn it, so we're going to have to finish it off by hand here. Isn't the first time, but we'll get it. We'll get it done. Alright, so we got our holes drilled through there, so that should work out good. But our pins are too big to fit through there. These are inch pins, and these holes are 7/8. So, it would be nice if I had an inch a bit, but I don't. So what we're going to do is we're just going to have to go through and sand these pins down just a little bit. So we're going to do that here next. we go. That's what the doctor ordered right there. Perfect. Perfect, perfect. Okay, so back over here on the workbench. A little warm yet. Everything's looking really good. So we got our axle bracket. Put our bushing on. Take our other end. There we go. Just like that. So now we can actually get in there and weld what we need to weld. And we still got plenty of room for things to spin. Very good. I like that pretty good. I like how that turned out. Alright, well, I guess the next step onto here then is getting ready to kind of start to weld things. So let's to make it easier on ourselves, let's go ahead and measure and put some marks here for where this is exactly going to sit. This is wanting to turn on us here. Let's put it this way. There we go. Now it'll stay put. Alright, so our plate was 10 inches and these pieces are 2 inches. So that means 5 is half, and half of this is 1 inch, so that means 4 inches back is where this needs to be from this edge. So we'll go 4 inches back from the edge of that plate. There we go. And what do we got here to the outside edge? You can tell just by looking at it, I got to come this way. Let's go 1.5 inches to start. And yeah, that's about what it is. Yep, come back just a touch, but right there is where it should be. Double check our measurements here. Right on 4. Right on 4. So right there is where it should sit. So let's go ahead and just kind of mark it. Just in case it moves, we have an idea where it's supposed to be. Okay. Very good. Let's get set up and do some welding. Nothing's moved. Everything's stayed put. All right. Let's get things kind of tacked here first. Alright, let's run a bead down the side. Well, let's get a little bit on the inside, I guess. That way it don't move, hopefully. What do we think of that, huh? Seems like it turned out pretty good in my opinion. See if it holds up. See if it does what we want it to do. Get this old grease off of here and put some fresh on. A little bit of bearing grease. Make sure things slide that need to be sliding. Make things last just a little bit longer. Hope it up top there for your piston. Put it in like so. There we go. Well, let's go find some dirt and see what happens, see if it breaks or not. I was able to find a little bit of loose dirt here. I don't have a whole lot to work with because the ground's pretty well frozen right now outside, but I'll have to do some more testing on it and get back with y'all. But here's kind of a primary test. First run through, see if it breaks, see if it does what I want it to do. So let's see what happens here. Yep. And we broke. Okay, so having a look back here at our failure, looks like pretty much what we got is kind of what I want. I had wondered this, if there would be enough welded on there to take that stress. So it looks like what happened is we did not have enough on here, enough material welded to take that stress. So let's kind of get this all ground back off of here, and we will try to start again. I think what would probably be best is if I can taper this shaft down a little bit more, and start my weld in a little bit closer to the core of the shaft itself. I'm just not getting enough weld out here to make it happy. So let's do a bunch of grinding, get this all smoothed out again, put like triple the weld on there, and let's see if we can fix this weak point. I went ahead and cut a pretty good angle on the front here, almost to a point, and went ahead and ground then this off pretty good. So now when we stick this on there, we have a lot more real estate to get that welded on. So I'm hoping that this will perhaps help that stick a little bit better. So I will go ahead and get fired up here and get this welded on. Alright, we got things welded back up on here. Fair amount better. Welded that entire thing in, flared it out. Should be hopefully good to go now. We'll give it a shot, and if it works, we'll come back through with the grinder sometime and clean all that up a little bit better. But for the moment, for another trial, we'll see what it does. Let it cool down here a little bit, and then we'll take it back to the dirt. Alright, we're back down here again. Re-welded it. Will it break this time? Let's try it out and see. Well, it seems to be better. Now let's see if it'll walk. If it'll walk like how I want it to. So if I tilt it back on its side like this, it should be able to walk. Let's see if it does. Well, it's holding up. It's holding up good as far as I can see. And it's doing exactly what I want it to. It's tamping the ground. So that's wonderful. Well, there it is. We made our very own swivel foot. Longevity and life will remain to be seen. We'll see how it holds up. If there's any updates that I come across or things that I change, I'll try to let y'all know. But here's kind of the prototype. In the few minutes there I tested it, it seemed to work okay. It does seem to be doing exactly kind of what I had hoped that it would. Seems like our welds are holding up fine. Our plate is not bent that I can tell as of yet, so I guess we'll see how it goes. I know I got a few jobs in the spring lined up to maybe use it for. I got a few retaining walls to do, some small ones, and it would be handy for that, about the width of a cement block or two, and kind of run it along just like in a little stone trough. Yeah, we'll see. I thank you guys for watching, for spending your time here with me on this project. Be sure to leave me a thumbs up if you like what you see. Subscribe for more. There's plenty more content coming between small engine stuff and other welding fabrication projects. The list is quite long. Drop a comment down below. Be glad to conversate with you, hear your ideas and suggestions for this. I'm sure somebody out there has better ideas of how to do what I just did. I'd be glad to hear them. But yeah, thank you all for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.